All right, what's up, everybody? I'm here with the OHSF All-Decade team yet again with an important defensive lineman to the team, a great addition and a well-deserved addition. I'm going to let him do his own introduction as always. Take it away.
Hey guys, this is Kristian Lawrence here. Played at St. Peter Catholic High School for the Knights. Graduated in 2011.
Perfect.
Yeah, I had some great times there, man. Great times.
That's awesome. Yeah. Pretty early in this decade, but somebody that we truly remember to make sure that we were on this list, and getting 2 years in this decade's definitely worked out for you. But before we get into all the all-decade team and your high school days, talk to us about that community football and your growing up and how you got yourself into football and who influenced you to even become a football player.
Well, I actually started playing football a little later when I was kind of almost 15 years old when I first started playing football. At the time, I was into sports. I played basketball. I obviously played a couple of rec leagues in various sports, but football had never been on my radar until one day I went to a football game, and I'm like, I'm a big guy. Why am I not taking advantage of this? Why am I not playing football? And the journey kind of began there. I started with the Bengals, was my first team. Coach Rick Harris, who's actually a really close family friend of mine, he kind of took me under his wing, and he actually played football for Sherbrooke. That was kind of his, I guess, legacy project. He saw something in me, and he decided to run me every morning with his son, Isaiah Harris, who also played for the Knights, every morning at 6 a.m. in the summer, because I had nothing better to do, right? I was a kid and I was getting in shape, and it was more than just kind of beating my ass around. It was there was a weight limit back then, and I was actually about 45 pounds over the weight limit as a 14, 15-year-old, and you can imagine that's a little deterring to hear as a 14, 15-year-old, but at the same time, it was probably the best decision of my life. I cut the weight in some unorthodox ways, running at 6 a.m, and played my first season of football. And it was onwards and upwards from there.
Yeah. And you were always a D lineman from there? It was always that position, or did you have other positions in mind, O-line or linebacker or wherever else they wanted to put you, a fullback maybe? Yeah.
Well, funny you say that. A couple coaches over the time thought that I'd be a great fullback, and you know what? I have the power. I'm not fast enough, and that's just something that I had to work on that throughout my career, throughout my football career. It was right from day one, and D-line just spoke to me. Something about the battle in the trenches, just something in my soul. You have to be a little crazy to be a D-lineman.
You definitely do. Absolutely, you do. Yeah, you won't catch me down there in the box like that. No way. Yeah. But no, that's great. And obviously that led you to eventually St. Peter's. You were probably at 15 already at St. Peter's, probably your first year of high school, grade 9. What led you to playing Ottawa High School football? And then also start to share with us your time in Ottawa High School football, some positives throughout your time from grade 10 to 12.
I started off on the junior team on the Knights. And the reason I wanted to get into high school football was because it was firstly more football. I got to play 2 seasons. Secondly, is because I got to play with more of my friends that might not be playing community football. Realistically, that was kind of like the 2 big factors for me at the time. Obviously, it grew into more than that, but yeah, it was definitely a lot to do with the social aspect and a lot to do with the time commitment and the more football.
Absolutely.
I can't get enough of that.
Yeah. So once you got there, and clearly Coach Mick probably saw something in you, and I'm sure Coach Bean back in the day too, and Coach Blomley. Oh, yeah. So once you got there in junior, what happened from there? What was going on in your high school career?
basically I started off right where, I started again at D lineman, which I was happy about. And I guess Coach Mick definitely saw something in me to trust me to be a starter on the team right off the bat. I learned my lesson very quickly that playing against older guys isn't as easy as I might think it'd be. And grown men definitely have grown man strength as opposed to a younger kid. I guess one drill in particular, I know I'm kind of sidetracking here, but one drill in particular kind of resonates with me to this day. And as a bigger guy, I'm never going to like running. I always tell people running is something I would never do of my own volition. And football, just, you have to do it. So everyone took their Knights helmets, made a 20-yard box down the entire length of the field, and you would do basically a box drill, except for the entire length of the field. And that's how we started practice, and that's how we ended practice. And after that warm-up, you think, how can I keep going? But at the end of the day, when you're playing a lineman position, like, if you're not hitting the guy first, you're screwed. You're on your ass. Anyways, back to
Can't say I ever warmed up like that with Coach Mick, so I'm gonna have to ask him if his practice has changed a little bit. Yeah, we just used to run a lap and do stretches. He was soft in the mid 2000s. Yeah.
I guess he was, eh? I think we pissed him off a bit.
Absolutely. So yeah, tell me how the seasons went from grade 10 to 12. What was the success, or maybe perhaps the failures, and the constructive pieces you got from that?
Well, my claim to fame, I guess, was for everyone that I would brag about our program to, is that we went basically undefeated during the entire time I played football at St. Pete's. And that was like a big, like, I guess, ego boost for me. And I carried that around town, and guys didn't like it, but I loved it. I was a champion. And that was something that still resonates with me to this day. Like, the feeling of, I guess, having multiple rings, you could call them, because they are rings. We do have multiple rings at St. Pete's. And there's one year in particular, I believe it was grade 11. I'll have to fact check myself. But we had a transfer, Kenny Benoit. And he came over from, I think it was St. Pat's, and played that year. And because he played without waiting a season, I believe was the reasoning, we actually had every single game that we won that he played in stripped from us. Mm-hmm. And I remember that feeling. I remember crying in the hallway. I'm pretty sure there's still a locker at St. Pete's that's bent in half, because I smashed my knee right into it. It was like for about a week straight too. It wasn't just one day.
Jeez.
And this one kid, he tried to chirp me in the hallway because I was crying. And I just looked at him, and that's all I needed to do. I just looked at him, and the guys had to restrain me because I was that upset about it. Like, it's not a small thing, right?
Yeah. And, so that might have been the minor blip on the radar there from that career, but there was definitely some multiple city championships and multiple OFSAA berths. Can you speak to us about those times for you, and maybe some memorable plays or memories you have with those guys? Yeah.
100%. First one I'll start with, I guess, is grade 10 city championships. That was on the AstroTurf at the classic Minto Field. And everyone that's played there knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say, if you don't want to fall there, because you're going to lose your skin.
And you guys are loose on the D line, and you play with no sleeves and everything. So you guys are crazy. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I played with a t-shirt midwinter, man. Like in November, I was still in a t-shirt, and I remember the guys used to look at me like I was crazy, but I couldn't play with anything on. It just felt like it was restraining me. But yeah, city championships. Then from there, I guess the biggest one next is OFSAA, and that was with a team that a lot of people around Ottawa know. Alex Skinner, You got Harrison Lowe, you got Nick LaCour, you got Shane Dabros. I believe Juan Nava was one of the quarterbacks at the time. There's a lot of Jeff Vito was on the team. That was a big team. That was a team where we got together and we knew we were going to be the best in the city. That was just based on community football, based on kind of like where everyone was at in their career. The times that were had on that trip, I'll never forget. Staying in the Sky Dome hotel for OFSAA was something that I still laugh about with those guys to this day. And I guess the most memorable play there for me, I was a long snapper actually as well, and I was snapping for a field goal, and this guy knew he was doing the wrong, because you know the rule, you can't line up on center, but he lined up on center because I pissed him off a previous play, and he dug my head into the ground and then kind of like teabagged me. You know what I mean? Like, and I got so upset. I'll never forget. I knew if I retaliated, I'd get kicked out of the game, and that's the only reason that I'm not still alive, but that he's not in that he's not in worse shape than he is today.
Yeah. Everything within the lines of football, right? Between the whistles is good. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes that rule had to be broken, but not that day.
And that's a great trip, and that happened actually in 2009, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So what about 2010 and 2011? Was there any OFSAA berths there, or any championships, or?
Yeah, city championships. There's actually a picture of me catching the football, and you might be wondering how the hell did you catch the football? Well, Coach Mick, and you can ask him to this day, I begged and pleaded with him to let me catch a ball once in my career. And sure enough, it was in the city championship, and it was for the winning drive. And so, like, all that together, I think that was probably my most memorable moment at St. Pete's. I got put in a tight end, fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, and I remember just running. Didn't run a route. I just ran straight.
What year was that?
That was 2010.
Okay.
That was 2011. That was my senior year.
Okay.
And yeah, and no one covered me, because they're like, okay, like, let this big guy like run out into the middle of the flats and do his thing. And I remember waving, and it was Juan Nava that was the quarterback that threw the ball. I was just waving for like 5 seconds while he's running around trying to dodging tackles, and finally he just sees me, and it's like we like see each other down the hash mark, and he just bombs it, and it's not an accurate throw. He just like hucked it as far as he could. Like, I was standing there, and it seemed like time froze. And then I remember jumping and just catching the ball with my chest, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I was so nervous. I'm like, I can't drop this ball. This is my one ball.
I think we'll give you the benefit of the doubt on this one. I think you're okay. As a former receiver, I'll give you the pass on that one. Yeah.
And what I didn't see was that there was 3 guys. It's this town outside of Kingston or something. I can't Sydenham.
Sydenham, yeah.
Sydenham. And oh man, like 3 of them, just one on the knee and one on the other knee, and one I think had his hand like in with where I was catching the ball, but I still made the catch. And I've never seen the crowd so excited to see someone catch the ball, because what was I doing out there?
And that was back in the day when you had to actually play down to get to OFSAA, right? You didn't get an automatic berth. You had to win your city championship and then play a team from Kingston or that area just to even get to the bowl. So that was a lot of fun. I can remember that in 2005, we actually played Almont to get in, and that was a scary thought as well. So can definitely relate. There's some big boys in the valley, let me tell you, right? Yeah.
Those farm boys, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So going from there, did you guys won that game? I'm assuming, or
we did win that game, and it wasn't.
And unfortunately,
it wasn't
yeah, that's great. And unfortunately, you didn't. It didn't culminate in an OFSAA victory at that point.
No, we would go to lose the next round. I think I deleted that from my memory because I don't remember how, but but yeah, we didn't make it past that. I just remember that specific day.
Yeah. Still a great accomplishment though, getting 3 city championships, an OFSAA ring, even if it's in '09, that it still carries over to the legacy you had into that decade. It's still something that you can remember. And, it's part of that St. Peter's legacy as well. And as you can see, and as you'll probably see as the team gets unveiled, it's quite heavy with St. Peter's guys that go out through that decade. Good mix of a lot of different teams, but because this decade was so dominant by St. Pete's, it was very much led by guys like yourself. And, as you could probably tell, that segues into, the next part of your career and how successful you were there as well. And that being said, the next question, of course, is, talk to the student athletes who are currently going through Ottawa High School football. How can these student athletes aspire to have a similar pathway to you, going to university and eventually, having an opportunity professionally in careers, or even a knock at the door at the CFL? In that case, perhaps start with talking about your recruiting process and how you ended up in a unique situation out west, because it's NCAA, right? Yeah,
that's right. And I guess my number one thing, my dad was a huge factor in that. Frank Lawrence, he made sure that everything I was doing on the field was filmed if it could be. He was my number one supporter, number one backer, in I guess manager, you could call him, because yeah, he was very involved, and he would often I guess be the first one there and the last one gone at the end of the day, and he was filming most of the plays that most of the snaps that I played, at least. Taking that film and moving it into a platform like NCSA is the platform that I used, and it's a great program. It connects you directly to every single NCAA school. That was a huge motivator for me as well, because you get to actually see who's looking at you and who's reviewing your tape. They can't message you directly because that's against the rules up front, but they'll reach out to your coach, or they'll reach out to someone that's involved in your sports life. And to get those kind of messages and those knocks on the door, it's huge. It makes all the difference. I guess Simon Fraser University reached out to, I guess, Coach Mick, I'm assuming, and they arranged a trip. And I remember seeing the guy show up. He showed up in a convertible to one of the games, and I was like, "Who the hell is this guy? Like, this guy's all fancy." And sure enough, it was Dino Jeremiah from Simon Fraser University, and I would learn that he was the defensive coordinator at the time, and heavily involved in recruiting. So after the game, I remember he shook my hand and he said, "You got what we want, and I can't make you an offer here, but I'd like to invite you over to the campus to see it." And I had been to Vancouver with my family when I was 16 years old, and I loved it. I told them one day I'm going to go there. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, but one day I'm going to be in BC, and here we are. But yeah,
funny how things work out, don't they? Yeah,
funny how it works out.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's kind of like my selection was very biased. But they made it more worth my while a little bit on the recruiting trip. I ended up flying out on a red eye, got there in the nighttime, and there wasn't much to happen on the first night, but of course they want to see the goods. So they got us out on the field for a workout first thing, right off the plane. There was like six or seven of us. And we were just doing drills and drills and drills. And there was one drill in particular that had nothing to do with me as a D lineman. And it was actually a receiver drill. Yeah, it was nuts. They had us, basically, we were doing a back pedal, diagonal back pedal, following the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had to do a sprint out, look over the shoulder for a pass. And you know what? I couldn't understand why they wanted me to do it, but I did it as hard as I could. And he said that because he saw the determination and I guess how engaged I was in the drill. He's like, I knew everyone there knew that wasn't your drill, but you decided to go the extra mile in that drill, and that separated you from the rest of the recruits in terms of D-line.
So there's a method to their madness then. It was just to see who really wanted it at that point, right?
Yeah, who's going to push, who's going to buy into the program, who's going to buy in and do what the coach says.
Yeah.
And they saw that and they liked that, so he said that was that was the moment he knew he wanted to offer me.
And yeah, I mean, we all know you ended up there, but were there any other offers coming from maybe other U Sports schools or maybe even other NCAA schools at that point?
Yeah, there was a couple NCAA schools. Boston College was one, but it was a very minor offer. There was Central Connecticut University. That was another like partial scholarship offer. That I went on a recruiting trip down there as well, actually. I could talk a little bit about that. It's basically they're called the Blue Devils, and they're not too far away from UConn, actually, at University of Connecticut. They're a Division I AA school. So the only reason that they're AA is because they're a smaller school size, and that's it. They have the talent to be in Division I. Basically, it was like a full-on summer camp. Like you're getting prepped for the season, and there was pads, there was drills, there was full contact. It was nuts. Like there was about, and they incorporated you right in with the current guys. So there was like 60 guys on the field competing for jobs.
So here you are, some 17-year-old with a bunch of 24, 25-year-olds, just getting yourself ready to get your head smashed in as a D-lineman, just a fresh-faced kid, Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You see guys there that are, because in the States, some guys start college a little bit later. And there were some guys that were like 20, like almost my age. I'm 27. There's guys that were like 26 years old that had the pads on, full beard, kind of everything, right? They had grown man strength, and it was a bit intimidating, but I knew I was strong, so I tried to rebut as much as I could. And they talked a lot. They took a lot of smack in the States. That's something I'll say. Like they assume that Canada is only igloos and maple syrup, and that's not a lie. That's all they called me Canada. They didn't even call me my first name.
Jeez. Safe to say that you didn't end up at Central Connecticut, that's for sure. But,
no.
Yeah.
There's a few others actually. There's two other schools I think that I'd like to highlight. Rutgers University in New York. That was a cool trip because it was a D lineman challenge, I guess, or a lineman challenge, not just D lineman. And I was the only Canadian invited to that camp, and every single other lineman there was a five-star recruit, and it had multiple Division I offers. And so going there was a big deal. I guess more for publicity than anything, but it was also a great gauge of talent to see how good I really was. Am I good enough to play at this level? And
you quickly found out the answer was yes, absolutely. So
I did pretty good there.
Yeah.
Those camps are definitely a great factor for if you can get yourself in a camp like that, just do it. It's even if it doesn't turn into anything, it's a great experience, and it's another chance to compete. It's another motivator for you. One last one, University of Buffalo, where actually Jeff Vito ended up.
Yeah.
He played there a few years, and that guy was a monster. That guy was an absolute animal, and I dreaded playing against Jeff Vito.
For the audience, if you don't know him, he was a great O lineman that played from at St. Pete's from 2009 to 2010, and probably could have, if he was playing a little bit more in this decade, probably could have made that list, to be honest. But yeah, an absolute beast of a person, and probably should have had a better career if the injuries weren't the way they were. But life happens that way. But again, not about Jeff. It's about you. Talk to me about Buffalo. Yeah.
Yeah. University of Buffalo was, I guess, my first like true Division I school I experienced. The weight room was out of this world. The stadium was out of this world. The whole experience was just like, okay, this is the big show. It was a super cool, I guess almost like a culture shock, when you go down to the States and see how they perceive football, and not that it's perceived less here. It's just everything's bigger south of the border, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess the biggest thing there was the D-line coach. And I remember he was pointing out physical attributes of mine as the reasons why I couldn't do it. And that pissed me off. And I'm sure he did it on purpose. But I remember he came right up to my dad and told him, like, see his ankles? They're not skinny enough. Look at this guy's ankles. They're skinny. This guy's going to make it. He has what it takes. And I'm like, what does that have anything to do with what I'm doing on the field? He's trying to get in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't let things like that get in your way. And the coaches know that if they pick on you like that, if they get that deep, and they get in your head, then you can't handle it. But if you can work past that and say, I am good enough, I am where I'm supposed to be, you can do anything you want, man. Like, the world's your oyster. And if you work hard enough, like, you can make it happen. I did. I made it happen.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. That situation, going from St. Pete's, getting yourself invited to those D1 camps, did, get yourself into that position where you did get to commit to an NCAA school. And I would love for you to talk about your time at Simon Fraser as well a little bit, how that went for you and what that kind of allowed you to do in terms of your journey.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to finish off the recruiting trip a little bit on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was pretty cool what they did. They took us to a Carrie Underwood concert the next night, and I had never been to a country concert before. I'm not the biggest country music guy, but it was pretty fun. She was flying around in a pickup truck over the crowd, and I thought that was pretty cool. And that was my first real experience with some of the current players, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because they bring the players bring us out. It's not just the coaches. It's they want to make sure you get along with the team, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And little did I know that those guys were all also on defense, and it's the guys that be playing right beside a few months just afterwards. And I guess the first season with SFU, usually in the NCAA, all the freshmen take a redshirt year. So that's why they have 5 years in the NCAA. But for various reasons, not just because of my talent, but because more senior players just weren't getting it done. I got to start my first year, so I burned my shirt the first year, played as a true freshman, and that was interesting to say the least. a little bit of a shock going into a game as a guy that just got into a college weight program and was just getting into the speed of the game, because it gets a lot faster when you get to the college level.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone tells you it, but you don't know what that feels like till you've done it. And getting your eyes right is what my coach called it. I guess the first year getting into the groove of things was a little interesting as well, because, well, first of all, living away from home, that was a big one. Mom's not cooking your food anymore. Mom's not doing anything anymore. And I was definitely a mama's boy, so that was a big culture shock for me. I think I actually got that award. Thanks, Coach Mick.
Along with the defensive MVP award, I'm sure, right? Yeah. Yeah. I think I've seen your name on a couple of plaques in the St. Pete's night hallways. So yeah, I think you're doing okay.
But yeah, big lifestyle shock, I'll call it. Mm-hmm. Living in residence is a lot of fun as a freshman. There's always interesting things happening, and because you're an athlete on campus, you already have hundreds of friends that you've been bleeding, sweating, competing with for months before anyone else gets to meet each other on campus. So you already have that kind of tight knit kind of community that you need to succeed in against adversity like you would face your first year of university. Study hall is something that I remember vividly. It's a requirement. SFU is a very highly ranked university, and the academics there are no joke. Especially first year, it's very general, so you need to know a lot. You need to study a lot. Yeah, I remember endless nights picking between studying and sleeping, because sometimes practice would be at 6 a.m. and classes go until 5 or 6 p.m. And you have, what's this, coach? You have mandatory run and lift sessions after practice, and you have voluntary film sessions with your individual position coaches. And there's a bunch of voluntary stuff. There's a bunch of it's not voluntary.
Yeah, no, I was about to say the word voluntary seems to just mean mandatory without them trying to say it. Yeah.
It's a loose term.
Absolutely. But it just goes to show that, getting to that next level, it becomes something a lot more serious, and you have to love the sport to want to keep doing it, right? It's balancing your studies as well as your football career is no small feat, as you just mentioned. And it's not for everybody, and that's completely okay in that way too, in some respects. But for a guy like you, you seem to flourish, right? And that culminated into you having some great seasons over there, even if the team was kind of up and down. You know what I mean? But individually, the performances, from what I remember, were pretty top notch. I remember keeping tabs on you.
Yeah, I had quite a few good games. I guess like a natural progression over the 4 years that I played. My junior and senior years were definitely my best, especially statistics wise. I had one of the top, I guess, tackles for a loss statistics in the GNAC, which is the Great Northwest Conference, Athletic Conference. Biggest game of my career, junior year, Idaho State, Div 1 school. And we're a small Div 2 school from Canada. We go down there, and I had never played in a Division 1 game, and I was about to find out what that was like, because the fans there are nuts, and they know your name. They know everything about you, because if you had social media, they will dig into your past, and they had very unique insults for every single one of us, especially if you did well against them. While you're on the sideline, they would find anything. If you gave them an inch, they would take a mile.
Can you give us the PG ones?
Well, I know at the time I had a girlfriend, and they found that out because it's on Facebook. So they just kept making comments about how pretty my girlfriend was, and how much better off she'd be with them, and things like that. Like, oh, I treat her right. Like, I'd take her out for I'd take her out for dinner first.
Jeez.
Yeah, there was some interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
But there was, why I liked that game so much is that we got pummeled, by the way. I think we lost like 60-16, or it was some kind of terrible score. But I remember I got about 4 tackles for a loss that game. So individually, it was a good show for me to realize, like, I can play at that level.
Yeah.
And I can compete with these guys. They chose to go to that school and play at that level, and I could have done the same, but I went to SFU for more personal reasons than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think that put you on the map as well for the CFL Scouting Bureau as well. Like, I definitely know that you had some opportunities to even go next level. In your senior year, what was the hype around the Kristian Lawrence momentum into the CFL? What was going on there, and what ended up happening? Yeah.
Well, basically, it started off pretty flat, honestly. I wasn't getting any communication from my coaches, and Jacques Chapdelaine, who actually coached I guess for Saskatchewan and a couple other teams in the CFL. He was my head coach at the time, so I thought if anything, I'd hear from him if there was some sort of sign that I was going to get a shot to the next level. There was nothing from him pretty much all season. It kind of came down to the wire, where other guys were starting to hear about teams wanting them to show up to the draft, and they were starting to get I guess messages and then meetings with the coach saying, hey, like this team's interested. I didn't get those messages. I just thought, hey, I know you can do this. If you want it, then here's your shot. And I'm going to get you invited to the Edmonton Regional Combine. And you're going to get to show them what you can do. And so at that point, I had been training kind of on my own, thinking it could be over, but if it's not, I want to make sure that I'm ready for it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I did what I was supposed to, because I got my shot. And at the regional combine, my numbers weren't great. I think I got 21 reps on the bench press, and it was a laser time 40. And I would rather not discuss that number with everyone, but it was pretty bad. But my individual drills, I think that's where I shine. I did very well in the individual, I guess, one-on-ones, and there was a full line. It wasn't quite 5-on-5, but it was 2 rushers at a time. So they'd have a D end and a D tackle do stunts to try and get to the quarterback. And that's definitely where I showed them, first of all, my strength, because I'm definitely more of a run player. But secondly, that I am fast enough to play in the CFL. Don't let this 40 time tell you that I'm not fast enough. And that's kind of where things ended. After the combine, I didn't get any contact from any teams saying, hey, like, we're interested, come for a tryout. I didn't get any kind of messages saying, hey, we liked what you saw, keep working, we might have something for you down the road. There was no communication after that. And so at that moment, I did have an agent. He's at Center 69 in Montreal. At the time, he kind of gave me an ultimatum. He's like, hey, buddy, like, you can this isn't over yet. You can keep training. And if you want it bad enough, I'm sure you'll get a shot. And personally, that was the moment where I decided, okay, well, I did try my best. I trained, I put a lot into this, but I think there's more to life than football. And I love the game, but it might be time to hang up the shoulder pads.
Yeah, and that's a noble decision. It's never easy for anybody, right? And you have to come to terms with that on your own. And that's completely okay. It happens for some of us earlier than later, or later than earlier, and it's never when we want it. But it's the transition is something that, one, we struggle with, but two, also we're grateful for it, because it shows us that there's more to life than just being a football player. And where did that take you?
Well, I'm just going to transfer inside real quick, because I just realized you guys probably can't see me. Basically, from there, I decided to put all the effort that I've been putting into football back into school. It's not like I wasn't trying at school before, but I had a lot more, I guess, energy available to double down on school. And at the time I was taking a communications degree, focusing in policy. I took that and just kind of ran with it. And where I got with that is actually nowhere with it. And you know what's interesting? If you take communications without a plan, you're not going to get anywhere with it. And I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought, you know what, at school, once I finish school, I'll get a job. But if you look at communications and kind of the breadth of career pathways that there are available through communications, there's a lot. A lot of them have to do with media, I guess social media these days, I guess HR positions as well. You can apply communications to. I kind of got into an HR career at this point, but I guess the point being, you kind of have to get creative with what you have, and that's what I had to do, because every summer in between university, I would work in the construction industry. And so I took what I had already done and what I just accomplished and put them together. And sure enough, I actually managed to convince a company that they needed a safety manager.
There you go.
And yeah, from there, I worked 4 years for that company. And I actually just got hired by another company in a much larger capacity as their safety manager.
Yeah, that's like you said, it has you flying all over the world, off the record when we were just chatting earlier. But it sounds like you're flying all over Canada, flying all over the place just to kind of fulfill that role. And clearly that's been some sort of fulfillment for you as well, taking over for what football used to be. And as we said, like that's completely great, and that's okay, and we love that, because we like to see, it's bigger than football at the end of the day. Seeing your pathway from high school to university to where you ended up in your career field just goes to show that football, you used football to your advantage to get where you are in life. And that's what we need to tell these young guys, like as they go through, it's you got to use football, you got to use it during high school to get that scholarship and get those marks. And then to use it when you're in that facility, in that university institution, to get yourself to a position to either, professionally succeed outside of football or professionally succeed in football. And it's nice to see that you really got that done. It's
I always preach to whoever I work with how much they probably to a level of annoyance how much football has impacted my life. Because if you haven't played football, then you don't understand. But,
and I'm sure the guys at St. Pete's would agree with you. There's just nothing like that high school feeling with your boys, lifting up that trophy and, being successful with your friends, right? Like that's memories that you cherish and stuff like that. And like you said, you wouldn't understand unless you put the pads on with your guys, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And the team environment, the culture. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was actually looking back at trophy photos when I got an email from you, and so it was like, whoa, this is awesome. I get all this nostalgia all at once.
Yeah. And, well, I'm glad we could do that, and honestly, I really enjoyed this chat, first of all, and then second of all, I think that it was really nice to see your perspective, because you're one of those guys who's probably one of the more successful high school players to come out of Ottawa in terms of U.S. Looks up until the mid 2000s and whatnot, with the Hamlins and other likes that like them. And just recently we had Renee Conga, another defensive end, go to Rutgers. So it just goes to show you that the talent is here, and guys like you can, and guys like them can do that. And it's great to see that, because it shows you as well that it's guys have done it, guys can do it, and the pipeline's still there. And it doesn't have to be from St. Pete's; it can be from another school, And, and it's just goes to show you stick to it, and you're training and doing what you got to do. Then you take care of that academic and that football side, you're good, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Especially that academic side. That makes a big difference getting to school.
Absolutely. Well, just wanted to say thank you again, and congratulations for the nomination, and welcome to the all-decade team from 2010 to 2019. And we're really happy to have you on this list, and we think it's very, very deserving.
Thank you very much. I'm very thankful to be on it.
All the best, Kristian.
You too, man.